On behalf of our team at RDIC, we would like to welcome Mr. Richard Lamontagne. Mr. Lamontagne is the president of Absolute Locating, and it's a business that provides damage prevention services underlying. I'll let Richard explain all that stuff for the Southeast and for Southwestern Manitoba. Just a reminder before we begin that after this presentation, please complete the survey on our website, either by using the QR code or go to www.rdiec. And by completing the survey, you'll be entered to win a $50 gift card. Thank you so much for taking the time for joining us today, Richard. I know you're a very busy man, and everyone's going again in Southeast and Southwestern Manitoba with oil and underground locating. I know there's lots of things underneath the ground there, so it's very interesting and looking forward to this. Thanks so much, and take her away.
You bet. Thanks, Jeff. So as Jeff said, Richard Lamontagne is my name. I live and raise a family here in Oxbow, Saskatchewan. I have 4 daughters, 3 of which are in university, 1 of which is in grade 11. So I understand full well the challenges that today's youth have in making decisions for what their future is going to be and what they decide to do in their lives. So anything that I can do to help provide some insight to help you make some decisions, that would be great if it can be helpful. My oldest daughter's in science and engineering. My next one's in education, and my next one is looking into psychology. So we kind of have a pretty wide array of what's going on. So I understand a lot of the challenges you folks are all having to face. So Absolute Locating started in 2002, owned and operated by myself and my wife and my family. And what it was is we started into one branch of business when I was, just starting out of university myself. I went for just a couple of years of university, moved home, started working in the oil field, saw an opportunity to, get into a business on my own. Not that it was something I planned to do, but it's just kind of how life presented itself with opportunities. So I ended up in my own business. We operate currently, I'll have a chart at the end showing what it's like. We live in Oxbow, Regina, Estevan, Virden, Carlisle, Saskatchewan, Lampman. That's kind of the what, where, why, and how. We kind of getting ourselves to this point. We're currently employing about 30 people scattered throughout Southeast Saskatchewan, Southwest Manitoba, and even up into Regina. What we do is we offer damage prevention services for our industries. The main thing that we do would be underground facility locating. So what does that mean? Well, underground facilities can be a lot of different things. This is a whole list of just what I kind of brainstormed first thing this morning. At your house, you have power cables, internet, telecommunications, your telephone lines, natural gas lines, water and sewer. That's just going into your house. In industrial situations, you can end up having pipelines, upstream pipelines like flow lines, water disposal lines, source wells, a whole lot of things you don't necessarily need to understand what they are at this point, but just understand that there's a lot of infrastructure that's buried underground that goes into our lives and plays key roles in what we do, both at home and at work. So once those things are buried underground, we need to be able to find them again so that we don't hit them when we're installing other new facilities. Sometimes we'll need to do investigations for environmental concerns to make sure everything's good. There's a lot of different things that can lead us to needing to dig that we need to be able to do safely without hitting other underground existing infrastructure. That's what we do, is we come in and we help people understand where their facilities are, mark them clearly above ground, and allow them to make sure they avoid contact when they're digging. So we're just helping our customers to dig safe. A lot of different technology that we use to do that. We use electromagnetic locating equipment as our primary piece of technology that we use. There's also things called ground penetrating radars, which can use in certain soil conditions to find underground facilities and underground anomalies. We use global positioning systems, so GPSs, to help document what we do, as well as geographical information systems, GIS. We use those systems are becoming more prominent all the time. We use them for documenting all of our all of our field data, bringing it into a database that we can use so that we can access it in the future and help us do our job better going forward and help communicate with our customers what we do. We've started to use a lot more unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs, drones. I'll get into the uses of those kind of as we carry on. There's really exciting opportunities in that side of our business, that kind of where we're planning to grow a lot. Magnetic locators, pin finders. We use customer relationship management software. We use laser and infrared methane detection, and we use thermal imaging cameras. So there's a lot of different technologies that we use, and we just are constantly trying to find ways to adapt that technology to meet needs for our customers. This is just a picture of one of our crews out doing a complete underground investigation. So we do underground sweeps. Often we don't know where all of the facilities are underground, in particular in our oil field that we work in here in the southeast Saskatchewan. So we end up having to do a lot of investigations, which means a lot of walking. We end up having to hoof around a lot trying to find underground facilities that nobody knows about. So that's a big part of what our business is. Here's an example of one of our maps that we created with our GPSs. So it's kind of a busy image, but you can see a lot of different lines going a lot of different directions with labeling and such on it so that you can understand what it is. This is a part of our documentation deliverable that we provide for our customers. Another thing that we do with it is we help our customers join the Saskatchewan First Call or Manitoba First Call. So you know what it's like when you call and say you're going to dig in your backyard, and you put in a one call so that the Sask Energy and Transgas, all the different companies will come and locate their underground facilities, so you don't put a fence post through a underground line by mistake. We help companies, especially in the oil and gas side of things, join that first call by providing a database of where all of their underground infrastructure is, and help them to manage the tickets as they come in out of the system as you request for those locates to be done, which are free of charge for the person doing the digging in the backyard, but we help our oil company customers join that system. And this picture just shows just one field, how many lines there are as an example going through it. Because we know where everybody's pipelines are and have GPSs to be able to guide us, to show us how to get to them, we've also started to do pipeline right-of-way inspections. So this is just a picture of one of our ATVs that we have done up with our gas detection rigged into it, so that we can go through the fields and inspect the pipeline right-of-ways once a year to make sure that there's no issues in the field, so that if the pipeline settles and there's a divot or a settling, we can kind of help to identify it. If there's weeds growing on the right-of-way, if the signs aren't right at the road, anything that's wrong with that pipeline right-of-way, we want to make sure that that pipeline right-of-way looks exactly how it was before the pipeline was installed, so that it's best for our environment, best for our relationships with our landowners that these pipelines come across. So we help our customers proactively scan those right-of-ways to make sure that there's no issues on the right-of-way. We'll use infrared gas detection to help us to determine if there's any leaks that they don't know about. Sometimes these older, especially on the gas pipeline side of things, these pipelines will leak, and they'll leak slowly and nobody will maybe even notice. We have a very, very sensitive gas sniffer that helps us to detect that gas if it's leaking. And then that way we can get it safely repaired before it makes too much of an environmental mess, or before spark causes fire or explosions. So we're always proactively trying to help them manage their underground piping. This is just a picture of our rig that we use for installing signs at those right-of-ways and road crossings, so that you can make sure that you can see if there is a pipeline crossing anywhere close by. Another thing that we've done as a result of reacting to our customers' needs is depth of cover analysis. So as you can see in that picture, you can see all those 4 sets of stakes. There's 4 pipelines crossing through that waterway. We want to make sure that there's enough dirt on top of that waterway so that the pipe remains safely operating underneath that water basin. If that depth of cover becomes too small, too shallow, then the company can come in and do some remediation, bring some new dirt up on top of it, or they can possibly rebore the line to make sure it's safe. If anyone remembers, a few years ago, there was a bit of an incident up towards North Battleford that contaminated a waterway. This is very much a reaction to making sure that that doesn't happen again. This is an example of the reports that we get, and we do all of these reports in-house. So we have very much have a field component, which is probably 75 or 80% of our staff work out in the field, and only 20% of them work in the office, but they help us to create these reports, indicating how deep or how shallow the pipelines are underneath those crossings. We also help, as I said earlier, sometimes they don't know where all of their pipelines are. These wells were drilled back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, and some of these technologies weren't available then. So we now go through and help them to document that underground infrastructure, because there's times where it wasn't properly recorded where these pipelines or cables or infrastructure was installed. So we go through using our GPSs, using our locators to help build a database, to help build a map to show where all of these facilities are. And then we use our drones to help give an above ground picture of what facilities are on site. And then we can create an as-built of the entire industrial facility. In this case, it's a battery site with all of those underground pipes coming in and out of there, and then all of the buildings above ground to help you understand where they are in relation to each other. The most recent purchase we made, and it's a brand new technology coming out of South Africa, is to mount a laser methane detector onto a UAV. So you remember how I showed you earlier, there was a picture of that side by side with a guy in it that's out doing those inspections. We're going to be able to replace it with a drone. The drones will be trained to fly directly over top of all of the underground piping. And then we have this super sensitive laser methane detector hanging off the bottom of it that will do the same thing, in that it will capture any unknown leaks, hopefully before they cause any issues. And then we'll be able to, using this drone technology, we'll be able to accomplish way more in a day. It's a really, really neat item. Really excited to get this to market here. We're just learning how to run it really well right now. That's a picture of the exact drone that we have. So it's going to be some pretty interesting stuff. Here's a picture of some of the other drones that we use for some of the other stuff. Like, these are more the imagery capturing. So we can do stuff like tell you how much gravel is in a gravel pile. We can do things like, doing three-dimensional pictures of any kind of outlay. I'm pretty sure I got a couple different examples of them coming up here. This is another example of a two-dimensional map, just using orthomosaic, they call it, just a picture from above to help you use it to underground reference and all the underground facilities. And then here's an example of a 3D mapping instance where we've been able to just, we just kind of obviously did the old elevator here in Oxbow just as an example of showing what we can build with these drones to help share with our customers. We also help them build site-specific emergency response plans, so that when you're working on a site, you can tell just by looking at a map where the fire extinguisher is, where the first aid kit is, that sort of things. Safety is a huge part of what our industry is now. To help in any way to document some of the things that are important to that safety aspects is really important part of what we do. Most of our training happens in-house. This is a picture of our crews out working with a service provider that we brought in to help work with our crews to help improve our abilities. This is kind of the required training typical to the oil field, and then some of it's specific to us. So we have industry required training to start working for Absolute Locating. It would be H2S Alive, first aid, CPR, WMIS, ground disturbance, UTV, ATV safety training. It would all be dependent on which industries you work in. Typically, we're working a lot in the oil and gas sector, so of course that requires all of these trainings. But specifically to work for Absolute Locating, we do tend to hire people, with no relevant direct education, as long as they've got those training pieces in place. And then we offer a lot of in-house field training. We do commercial UAV pilot's licenses is something that we'll invest into if it's something, that you're interested in and we need more people into that space. We've done that in the past with some of our people. GIS training, because so much of what we do is based on the technology database that we've created. We often have to train people in working in a GIS environment, and that's the people that we have working in our office are trained in that regard. And then the other thing I'm a part of a group that's trying to establish a professional designation for our underground facility locator. There's a lot of different training and competency measures out there in our industry, but we're trying to get a comprehensive set of what you need to do to be able to be an effective and a good locator, and then have that become a professional designation, so that when you kids trying to make some decisions, you can see what kind of opportunities are out there in that field and understand what that designation will get you for opportunities. We live and we work, like I said, all over kind of southeast Saskatchewan, southwest Manitoba, Regina, Lampman, Carlisle, Estevan, Oxbow, and Verdon. Always looking to kind of expand our areas to help better service our customers. So, Weyburn's another area we've looked at, things like that. So plenty of opportunity down in our way. And I can tell you also that even in the Kinnersley, Kerrobert, a lot of that area over there, there's a lot of opportunity in the oil field in this situation as well. What to expect when you work here? Lots of walking. We often interview people and they come in and say, I really enjoy walking. Well, there's days you walk more than you can enjoy. It's a lot of walking. In that regard, it can be hard work. And the other hard part about it is the fact that you're working outdoors in most weather conditions. So you're outdoors wearing protective equipment, coveralls that'll help you in case there's a fire or anything like that. You have to wear these coveralls they don't breathe very well. So when you're working outdoor in the hot weather, it can be difficult. Cold weather, obviously, can be difficult. But the one thing about this company and our industry is that we're very much focused on safety. So we never put anybody in a position that they're uncomfortable with, or put them in a position that they don't feel competently trained to be able to be in, nor one that puts them in an unsafe position. So we make sure that you're not going to be working when it's 40 below. You're not going to be working when it's raining heavily, because we have electronics that are expensive that are in your hands. So we make sure that that's, the focus of what we do is making sure that you come home safely every night. Our team, we have very much of a direct mentorship with the team environment. You're never going to be working alone. Typically, you're working with another experienced person that will help mentor you to improve your knowledge base, to help work towards getting the opportunity to advance. We don't have to do a lot of lifting, so there's not a lot of physical requirement, but we do have to be able to swing a hammer and tap stakes into the ground and carry around a box and walk in uneven terrain, that sort of thing. We like to challenge everyone with learning new applications of our new and existing technologies. As you can see, we have some new technology, but some of these technologies have been around for a very long time. But all we've really done is adapted how those technologies work to help our customers, to help meet some of the customers' needs. We want to, you're basically, when you're put into the field, you're asked to execute on some industry established practices and processes. You just need to sometimes just follow the procedures that are laid out for you, and make sure you do that to the best of your ability and document everything that we do. We're very, very thorough. We're not in a rush to get done a project. We want to make sure it's done right. So that's fully utilizing our tools and our knowledge to help our customers dig safely and manage their underground infrastructure. So that's kind of the whole run through on who Absolute Locating is.
Thank you, Richard. That was awesome. Just a question for you about employees. How many would you employ right now? And what is the prospect of a student potentially coming out of high school looking for jobs in this field, literally?
It changes a little bit. We currently employ plus or minus 30 people. Usually year round, we're at 30 people. Sometimes there's a little bit of seasonal fluctuations. First thing in the spring, they call it spring breakup, when the roads are banned and the heavy equipment can't move on it. We tend to have to slow down for 4 to 6 weeks in there. But outside of that period of time, yeah, we usually stay pretty close, 25 to 30 employees total. As far as hiring kids straight out of school, yeah, it happens all the time. We've had a pretty good run lately with not having a lot of turnover. So we don't have a lot of new positions available, but we often will hire students for the summer. Unfortunately, I have 4 daughters myself that all like to have those summer jobs too. So I have one of my daughters is our summer student currently, but there is often times where we are needing, people to come in and just work even just for the 2 or the 4 months of summer if they're going to university or high school. And then on top of that, it's an opportunity to start a career straight into it with some on-the-job training and opportunity for advancement built into it as well.
If a student was coming in with some kind of post-secondary, what might that be? I know you can train them right from high school on, but let's say a student does have, something from Sask Polytechnic. Is there something specifically you're looking for?
Yeah, the one position I talked about, the GIS, when it comes into our office and working within our geographical information system database, yes, Polytechnic does have some courses for that particular piece, and it's helpful. I have hired people from that Polytechnic program in the past, so that would be the one that's probably the most common. We are looking at partnerships. Our industry is looking at partnerships with Polytechnic for the underground facility locator, the professional designation piece as well. So that can be something that's developing here as going forward.
And just one more question from me. What is your personal background? I know looks like your company's kind of going to be celebrating its 20th anniversary here next year. But you personally, what got you into this, starting this company?
Opportunity, I guess. It's one of those situations where, I'd gone to university for a couple of years, moved back to make some money, ended up settling here, working in the oil field, finding some opportunity that way. But learning is a lifelong experience, and I'm kind of a living proof of it. I'm kind of shy to admit I'm 47 years old and I'm back in university. So it's something that you always kind of do. You always have to be ready to learn and always try to challenge yourself to be a little bit better. So I'm back taking my business administration degree right now. Is it something I wish I had had at the beginning of my career? Yeah, absolutely. And mainly because there's a lot of mistakes that I made along the way managing my own company that probably would have been steered off if I had had a little bit more knowledge in some of these subjects. But nonetheless, sometimes you set out to maybe myself, I wouldn't say that I was really guided by anything. I didn't say I wanted to be a business owner and I wanted to work for myself. It was just one of those situations where I was working within a partnership group that maybe we didn't all see things the same way. And I saw the best opportunity for me to move forward was to go on my own and to start this business. So it's not a real solid answer on how you get to where you get to. Sometimes you just have to follow the opportunities as they come up. And then sometimes you have to learn as you go. It's impossible to predict what life is going to grant you for opportunities. I mean, just take a look at what happened in this last year and a half for everyone. I mean, it's changed everything from a business, from a personal life standpoint. So just be ready. Any suggestions I would have for a youth is, be ready for these challenges. That you're going to get them. You're going to be challenged in life. You're going to have some opportunities in those challenges if you have the patience to see through it. Just keep your head down, keep working hard, and keep on looking for those opportunities.
Thank you so much for drawing attention to that and pointing that out to potential students interested. So, and one more from the office here.
Richard, you didn't talk much about the wages and benefits to working in this industry. I know I've got a lot of friends that work in the safety industry, and yours in particular is one that you need individuals that really dot their I's and cross their T's. But when it comes to making a living in this industry, what kind of wage range basically would you be looking at for starting and then working your way up?
Yeah, so when we start new people straight out of, with no experience, there's a bit of a 3-month period where they kind of have to help us to pay for their training, things like that. So we'll take, usually the starting wage for someone coming in inexperienced would be $22 to $24 an hour, increasing up to, we end up, I think the high end of our pay range in the field work would be $35 an hour. The hours obviously change depending on our conditions. We tend to work, 40 to 50 hour work week would be a normal thing. We're not working 70 or 80 very often. And there's obviously times during spring breakup, as I mentioned earlier, that maybe you work a little bit less. So as far as wages go, yeah, that's kind of an opportunity there. That's kind of the range of what we talk about. One of the opportunities I kind of wanted to make sure everyone's aware, when you work in the oil and gas sector, there's often the workload is a little bit much for some of, for females. This is one career opportunity where we employ a lot of ladies. It's because there's not a lot of heavy lifting. So it doesn't really require, there's no issues with that. We found it to be a pretty good opportunity, and we've had some of our best employees. It's not something we set out at the beginning saying, we need to capitalize on this part of the workforce. It's just become a really, really quickly identified itself as being a great opportunity for us, for a lot of people to find this is a great entry. Maybe people that don't want to get dirty and work on the rigs, or have to be shoveling a lot and working with heavy work environments. This was a lighter, lower physical demanding work environment. So that created some opportunities for some people that didn't maybe want to work in the hardworking side of the oil patch.
Thank you.
So when it comes to kids coming out of school, having a bit of a technical background computer-wise, and maybe some drone experience if they've grown up with it, kids nowadays grow up with that stuff. Is that kind of things you're looking for, and probably that attention to detail? What kinds of things would you say you are key for a candidate coming into your office?
Yeah, all of those things for sure. Exactly. Because everything we do is computer based. I mean, even just our daily ritual, I mentioned our customer relationship management software up front. I mean, even just our safety documentation every day, everything is all based on the computer. So yeah, having technical ability with the computer and a little bit of an imagination to maybe even see what softwares are out there that could help augment what we're already doing. Any of those, computer-based, technology-based kind of experiences or comforts are really, really important to what we do. And that doesn't mean you have to do it, but it certainly is a bonus if you can come in with some of that, those capabilities, because I can only see that portion of our business growing. The drones, all of that stuff is all obviously very, very technical, very detail-oriented stuff. Very much see that being a part of the future, and certainly a skill set that we'd be looking for in hiring.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's, I think, it from our office. We'll let Jeff do his thing now.
Well, Richard, thanks so much. I think Renette and Gord have asked you the main questions for the kids coming out of school. It was just amazing the amount of pipeline and all types of lines that are underneath the ground. And what I would say to the kids out there, just from watching your presentation, that if you like to walk, and if you like the outdoors, if you like the environment, and you're not really interested in going to 4 years of a BEd or something, going into a bunch of university, then to give you a shout. And I just also like to mention that it doesn't matter what health article you're reading, whether it be about diabetes or cancer or dementia. The number one thing that the people continue to say, and I was just reading something this morning, was that walking is your number one health benefit moving forward as a young adult, and as you age. So no, I'd just like to thank you so much. It was excellent presentation. You're very well spoken. I was just amazed at different things like depth of cover analysis and along the riverbanks and so forth. And it makes someone like myself feel much safer because you always wonder what's going on, and you hear different things. And the laser methane detection. So, I mean, there's so many different things out there. So thank you so much, Richard. And I'm sure the kids out there, I know for sure that they're going to get a lot out of this, and you'll probably be getting some phone calls.
That sounds great. Thank you very much, guys.
All right. Thank you so much. Take care.
Take care.
You bet.